Welcome to my video. This is going to be the 1 year and 4-day check-in with no nicotine. If you're new to my channel, like, comment, subscribe, show some support. And if you're returning, welcome back. Thanks for being here again. And without further ado, sit back, just relax, and enjoy the show. Starting off with, in today's video, is how one's health can improve when it comes to stopping an addiction, stop using a substance. And in my case, particularly, if you click on my channel, you'll notice and you'll see that my main and primary experience through quitting an addiction and the journey that I'm on now is with nicotine. So let's get into it. Let's start off by saying, how can your mental health improve when you stop using that substance? Well, it can improve by absolutely giving you a sense of mental freedom. And with that mental freedom, you'll be able to do a multitude of things now. So you are stopping doing something, and just that action will mentally free you up, where you won't be mentally dealing with those same reoccurring thoughts and those thoughts that really just come with an addiction, and that come with the mental behavior and the mental forms of being attached to something when it comes to mentally. So immediately when you do quit, you'll notice how much you start to specifically mentally detach from that substance, and your thought patterns and your mental forms are considerably changed and now have less and less influenced by nicotine or said substance that you're trying to weed out, or that you're trying to kick, or that you're trying to get over something. And mentally, that'll not only do that, but also put you in a mental state of being that is strong, a mental state of being that is stable, a mental state of being that is consistently growing, and a mental state of being that is non-dependent on specific things in order to get by when it comes to using your mental power, using your mental processes like thinking and communicating, and anything that comes to mentally will be benefited because you are no longer having such things block you per se when it comes to mentally. You don't have this addiction, you don't have this negative behavior, this negative action to continue blocking you, so that's less and less resistance against you when it comes to mentally applying yourself to where you need to be mentally applying yourself. And physically, how can quitting nicotine in this case scenario and any said substance impact and change your health? How can your physical health change? It's pretty clear to me that physically you're much better off not breathing in specific vapors and or smokes into the lungs, because, well, it's not just regular air, it's stuff that has a lot of additives in it. It's stuff that's not necessarily designed for your benefit of health when it comes to physically. If that was the case, then trees would be letting off nicotine and vape smoke and cigarette smoke. Just kidding, but kind of think of it in that way. You'd rather be breathing fresh air. You'd rather be, taking care of the physical vessel. And I have discussions all the time, and it brings me to what I had a discussion about last night, and kind of a little bit of a, I'd say, Twitter battle, you could say. Definitely was a back and forth that was two different people sharing perspectives, because the person I was talking to, the people I was talking to, are in support of vaping when it comes to helping you quit smoking. And the only thing I'll say is, well, no matter what, you're still why does it matter if you're still detrimentally addicted to a substance and your continuous use of that substance is only preventing you from experiencing longer existence physically, because, well, it can be detrimental to your health. It can have ways of affecting your physical vessel that can affect the body, and that can leave you in a certain specific space that might not be preferable. So when they say, oh, it's a better alternative and such, well, I say that coming from someone who has experienced it, and not even experienced like smoking cigarettes or anything like that to that extent that I did vape, but I know that it's a highly addictive action, and it's a highly addictive behavior. So that's why I advocate, against it. Imagine someone else, these are not normally, but this is an older person that was saying, why not? It keeps me smoke free, it keeps me calm, it eases my anxiety, it makes me feel good, or something like that. And I had to say that. I was like, yeah, but just because you feel good doesn't mean that you're doing necessarily the right actions when it comes to physically. You could still be hindering yourself and still be, like I said, I called it a self-abusive behavior when you are treating your body in such a way where it's not in balance. So physically, you gotta know that there's just ways that you can go about doing that to benefit your health when it comes to physically. And physical health is impacted by the use of substances, and nicotine in particular, by leaving the body wanting and in a lack of that substance. So if you go without that, you will have withdrawals. But the good news is that these withdrawals will subside over time, and they do cease to exist. They do fade away. The more that you go on that path, the more that you put in that work, you'll realize that it just keeps physically more detaching from that substance. And so that's a big one right there about how your health can improve when it comes to physically. And emotionally, how can your health, I normally call this emotional health, you can call it, or your emotional status, emotional state of being, can be in a healthier place when you are not so emotionally dependent on things like, let's say, an addiction, let's say a negative behavior that you have, or a toxic action towards oneself or towards others. Well, let's see, working through that is going to help you to emotionally be more stable, and emotionally be able to react to things in a much more structured way, in a much more let's say way where you'll be most protected, and you won't be experiencing lack of emotion, or emotions that are not things that people want to experience, or emotions that are low vibing, or how you could say staying stagnant in a specific emotion, or staying fixated on a specific emotion. You will experience emotional freedom once you detach from that substance, once you detach from, let's say, nicotine, and you'll come to realize that you want to do other things and derive feelings out of doing things that are more meant for you and things that are not. So let's say holding you back, or let's say not moving forward or not helping you grow when it comes to a broader perspective of things around you. And spiritually, how can your spiritual well-being, benefit from going without a substance, or going without a negative action or a toxic action? Well, spiritually, you'll grow and you'll start to gain more knowledge, gain more wisdom about those actions, about everything that you're going through in your life, and you'll be able to see it in a higher, spiritual perspective and see, okay, I see what's going on mentally. What is going on spiritually? I can see what's going on physically. What's going on spiritually? I can see what's going on emotionally. What's going on spiritually? And then being able to understand where you're at and where you stand on your path is like having that spiritual perspective and be able to apply it to your existence and be able to have that higher perspective and be able to see what is going on in your reality. So that's definitely something that can benefit your spiritual well-being and your spiritual state of being, is realizing that, okay, here's the reasons of, let's say, physically, why were you so fixated on that action? Then you do the work and you understand, you physically detach from it, and then you come to learn, okay, that tells me something about myself spiritually, because before even physically, I was a spirit, and so that will remind you of something that you already know. And then when it comes to mentally, let's say, oh, I can't stop thinking about this. Okay, so why spiritually is that in your mind? The mind is far beyond the brain, which is the physical counterpart of the mind and hardware of the mind. And what about your spirit? What about that spiritually can tell you more about the path that you're on and more about what's going on? Let's say you're experiencing a specific emotion, whatever that emotion may be. Working through that and tracing that and understanding that emotion can tell you, okay, spiritually, why is that happening in that sort of way? Why is it playing out in this way? When I felt this way in the past, and I felt that on a consistent basis, and let's say maybe I didn't even expand that out into the physical plane of, let's say, verbally speaking it out, yet it was still manifested in the mind, because each place you went, you had that mind state. And if it happened here, it happened there. Or let's say not only mind state, since we're talking about the emotional state of being, but you had that emotional state here, you had that emotional state here, you had that emotional state over here, you had that emotional state over here. But it was all encompassing certain individuals and certain people, places, and things. People, things, and places, and locations. That at the end of the day, you can see that spiritually it came together to making something happen in the end of the stream of events. And that's something that I am grasping this morning, and I am also realizing is that, interestingly enough, you can realize that spiritually you actually planted those seeds and that they came to fruition. And when they do come to fruition, it only goes to show and prove that your power is that the power of attraction and being able to influence and affect the way that your reality and the way that your life pans out and the way it plays out is mostly on you. It's up to you to be what you want to be, and in order to use that energy to see, okay, spiritually I am on the right path. Spiritually I was in my power. Spiritually, all those actions, all those thoughts, feelings, and experiences were leading up to this point that I'm at today. And now we can continue to move forward and continue to another experience. That's it for this video. I'll catch you in the next one.